Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to the show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. So again, you can tell my voice is a bit subdued and maybe I'm sitting a little closer to the mic than normal for, similar reasons as to last time we had a night game. My wife is trying to sleep, and the show needs to get done. The show needs to move on. At least segment number 1 in this case. Got to kind of work around busy schedules and all that, and late nights and early mornings, and it's a life. It is what it is. It's something of a life anyway. Something the Minnesota Vikings fans are probably wishing they could enjoy a little bit more. Something called a life. Minnesota Vikings played the Chicago Bears in Monday Night Football and find a way to lose 12-10.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Are you kidding me? It's like, what? Come on!
Oh, how I wish I was kidding you. Oh, how I wish I was. How I wish that Kevin O'Connell would utilize Josh Dobbs' strengths rather than try to force him to do something he's not. Force him into something he's not. Square peg through a round hole. How I wish there weren't 4 turnovers. How I wish this team could learn to hang on to the football. How I wish, as great as the defense was, how I wish they would be clutch at the end. But it's like no matter how great the defense is, they found a way to kind of fall apart at the end, unfortunately. But were they tired? I'm sure. But at least they kept the Bears to 12 points. That's a thing. I mean, that counts for something, that they kept the Bears to only 12 points. The fact that this bleepity bleep offense with our bleeping specialist genius of a coach, who's the greatest offensive coordinator ever and greatest offensive coach ever, managed 10 points against the Bears. I don't know. The defense is getting better, and they forced 4 turnovers against the Lions last week. The Lions rallied and beat the Bears. The Vikings kind of rallied, almost beat the Bears, but fell apart when it mattered. And Josh Dobbs is freaking horrible. Freaking horrible. The title of this episode is Scrubbed. Like what happens when a rocket or a space shuttle is ready to, you have something ready to go, you have a plan to go, to launch, and then it's canceled. Scrubbed. That's what it's called. Scrubbed. So that's what Josh Dobbs' rocket is, scrubbed. At least for now. We'll see if he ends up not being the starter next week. I don't know. Unfortunately, so it sounds like that Justin Jefferson will be activated by Wednesday, so that's good. Justin Jefferson will be back. Of course, he did not play, but he's finally going to play again, regardless if you're pissed off about him being on your fantasy team or not. I don't know. I haven't played fantasy football in almost a decade, or actually it's been a decade by now, right? It's 2013, or 2023 already. So yeah, it's been over a decade. I just don't play fantasy football. There's too many bounces of the ball and too much frustration. So I play the other sports instead. It's somewhat more fair, I guess, at the end of the day. Coaches' decisions to not hand the ball off to the running back at the goal line, that stuff can cost you a championship. And it happened to me more than once. I was, absolutely depressed. And it ruined my Christmas, damn it. So stuff like that. It literally did. Like Christmas Eve was a championship day a couple of times. And it's just heartbreaking to lose by a narrow margin like that. Let's get back to where we need to be. Josh Dobbs, 4 interceptions, some reckless, some terrible passes, but the coaching scheme was frickin' horrible. Let's hear what Twins manager Rocco Baldelli has to say about the game plan by Kevin O'Connell.
It's fucking awful. 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 In every possible way.
Sounds about right. Thank you. So a little bit of cross, coaching, or a little bit of a cross-sport commentary from another manager in town, Dean Evison, who was unfortunately fired today, Minnesota Wild coach. Anything you want to say?
We were awful, awful. But again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We said it again. They flipping sucked.
And again, now former Minnesota Wild coach, unfortunately, but at least he did have some thoughts on the game because he saw it and he wanted to tell me a little something. Because he'd still like to see the Vikings win, at least for a couple of minutes. Or maybe that was just his overall thoughts on the Vikings game plan. So we got to hear from at least 2 Minnesota coaches. Chris Finch doesn't have anything bad to say, at least as of right now. He's too busy with a team that's actually winning for once. 12-4 Minnesota Timberwolves. So, yeah, some shameless plugs here. Timberwolves explosion for the Timberwolves. Check that out. Brave the Wild for the Minnesota Wild. Check that out. John Hines will be your new head coach of the Minnesota Wild, apparently. Former Nashville Predators and New Jersey Devils head coach, who also has never won a playoff round in the NHL, but has won in the AHL. That's something Dean Evison didn't do in either level. Okay, wrong sport. Wrong sport, but that's about how much I feel about this freaking game. I mean, that's how... I have just some wonderful feelings about this game. Alexander Madison didn't fumble, and he averaged 5.2 yards a carry. That might be Fran Tarkington territory, at least on the offensive side. An offensive player getting it this week? Nope, no chance. No offensive players winning any gosh darn Tarkington award. No, shut up and go away. Okay, Hawkinson, yeah, okay, five catches, 50 yards, and he did get the go-ahead touchdown. Go ahead, not the winning touchdown. It could have been, but it wasn't because the defense unfortunately died later on. The Walter Payton Award is definitely going to go to DJ Moore. It's got to be. Though I suppose the Bears' defense was pretty good as well. And when you have an offense suck this freaking hard, any defense is going to look like the 85 Bears. Did we play the 85 Bears today? I don't think so. Either that or, like, I kept thinking when I was watching it, like, either Josh Dobbs is secretly hurt a little bit and they don't want to have him run, or the Chicago Bears defense is like 85 Bears quality, or the game plan just frickin' sucks. I think the game plan just frickin' sucks. Montez Sweat recently acquired from the Washington Commanders, a sack and a half. Nice. He's part of the future of the Bears, and the defense is better, especially when you make a move like that. Getting a big name like Montez Sweat. Ivan Pace Jr. was pretty good. Led the team in tackles and including a full sack. Danielle Hunter had 3 quarterback hits, 1.5 sacks, awesome, 2 tackles for loss, yeah, and also a strip sack that he shared with Josh Metellus, but he officially had the first fumble credit. Danielle Hunter was freaking good. I mean, he was awesome. Let's be honest. Sheldon Day also very good game as well. He recovered the fumble and did have a tackle for loss, a TFL as they like to say. Overall, it's like, I don't know, 12-10 to the Bears in U.S. Bank Stadium. I mean, what more is there to say? This is flipping awful. Murphy Jr. looked like he had the Tarkington wrapped up the way he was going. Multiple tackles for loss. He had some big games, or it was easily his best game for the Vikings. Or I guess they weren't tackles for loss, but they were big stops at the right time, right place, either like no gain or very short gain. Huge stops. Kind of Anton Winfield style, and he had a huge pass deflection that forced a, what do they call it? It forced a, where they ended up having to punt the ball, basically. 4th down type of situation. But then got kind of burned later in the game, unfortunately. Mekhi Blackman also, again, beat multiple times again, so not as good as he was before, unfortunately. I guess teams are figuring out Blackman a little bit. 6 tackles. Remember how Blackman was getting like 2 or 3 tackles? He was just spectacular every game. And like 3 pass deflections. Now, unfortunately, that's going more in the directions of Jalen Johnson, who could have had a pick 6 in the game because of such horrific passing by Josh Dobbs again, but also put in a position to fail. Josh Dobbs is not a pocket passer. We didn't utilize, we meaning the Vikings, of course, did not utilize Josh Dobbs' strength, which is, mobility. He wasn't used mobile at all. And if Josh Dobbs were to be hurt like somewhere like in his lower body, like a hockey, they say hockey, lower body injury of some sorts, and that was what you were avoiding rather than maybe trying to force a game plan down a player's throat, a la Brad bleeping Childress and other coaches, like, what's that guy's name? They just talked about him tonight. Doggone it, the former offensive coordinator under Leslie Frazier. God, that was terrible. He was the worst. Ruined Joe Webb. Any hope the Vikings might have had out of Joe Webb with some kind of like a spread offense. Instead, nope, we're going to play in the confines of the system. Your system has worked so damn well. Well, for the running back of Adrian Peterson, but for quarterbacks, there wasn't a single quarterback that well in your bleeping system. So, yeah. Bill Musgrave, of course. Yes, I was doing the podcast back then as well. Bill Musgrave, the guy who there was a joke going around that he got fired. It's obviously not a true story. It's just a fun it's just a fun myth made up by fans and stuff and media members that Bill Musgrave was fired from Dairy Queen for making vanilla sprinkles for for having putting vanilla sprinkles on a cone or a sundae, because that's how vanilla his offense was. Yeah, just like, what are you doing? Like, at least utilize a guy's strength. And Kevin O'Connell did not utilize Josh Dobbs' strength. Again, unless he has some kind of lower body injury that we don't know about, Josh Dobbs was horse shit. Okay, I'm gonna make this an expletive episode. Obviously, there was an F-bomb at the beginning from the AVGN. You got F-bombs from why am I blagging? I'm just losing it right now, and I'm tired, of course. The Twins manager, Rocco Baldelli. So I probably should put an E on this episode, and it deserves to be there. I probably should have put it in other episodes, but there was like one swear word here and there. So, but this one, it's going to have more. I'm going to try to stay off of it from my vantage point for the most part, but because I don't want to turn this into one of those like curse every 2 words type of episodes. That's kind of dumb. But Josh Dobbs was flipping awful. He sucked so hard. The passes were terrible, and the game plan was not set up for him to succeed at all. Sometimes they were just good plays by the Bears defense. Give them credit. But, I mean, I don't know. Josh Dobbs was not set up to succeed. That's the other thing. Just bottom line, he was not set up to succeed. But also still, maybe you'd hope that there's something there. Yeah, what is that? Obviously, again, like the some of the tipped interceptions were not completely his fault. Others were just horrific and frightening, and like lucky bounces and such that favored the Bears. But still, it was still a horrible pass. Like that looked like I'm seeing them right now in front of my eyes. Like, how do you miss? How do you miss on some of these? Just awful. Like you threw Madison or Addison, the other guy. You had Kalen Addison for the Wild, traded to the Sharks, so he got fired too, basically. Good riddance. He was disappointing. Kalen Addison, Jordan Addison, Alexander Madison. Well, at least we got rid of one of them, but it's the wrong team. And the coach, yes. Evison, this a sin and that a sin. It's just a sin watching a game like this. 10 bleeping points, 12-10 in U.S. Bank Stadium. You know what they should have done? I wish there was just a power outage and they canceled the game. That's how bad this was. 24 turnovers this season, by the way, most in the NFL. That's flashing on the screen, so thank you, NFL Network. And it's true, but it's just nice to have it right in front of me there. Upcoming games against the Raiders, of course, that's at Las Vegas. Yeah, I don't know. At Cincinnati, that's actually a very winnable game now, but maybe Jake Browning will find a way to throw 300 yards against us. Or no, we'll just fumble the ball like 5 times or something. Lions and Packers and Lions again to wrap up the season. Well, the Vikings, yes, and there is a bye week next week, and boy, do we need it. Boy, do we need it. Whew, boy, do we need this bye week. And I probably need it too, but it would have been nice if it was slightly earlier in the year, because now the lawn service is about to wrap up. But it's finally wrapping up, but would have been good if it was earlier to and all that. But, oh well, those Sundays were still fun to record and such. Just had to kind of work around things to be able to do it. Had to get caught up with the game, but enjoyed it. Obviously, listened to the entire thing and then watched the game afterward as well. And yeah, it's fun. It's better to just kind of do it all in one shot, though. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I don't know what to make of this, though. It's like the worst freaking game I've ever seen in my life. Anthony Barr did recover a fumble. Thank you very much. Anthony Barr does exist, and I don't know. There was a question brought up in, it's not Fan Line, that's a KFAN, it's the other one. Vent Line, that would be Score North, the Purple Daily version. One of the fans brought up that if you had a gun to your head, you could only keep one of the two. Between Kevin O'Connell, head coach, offensive side, Brian Flores, head coach, defensive side, and you can't have the other. The other is just gone. Like, they're gone. They're with another team or whatever. Who would you pick? The guy said Brian Flores. Like, he said that. Like, Score North didn't bring it up. You know, like Mackie, Judd, and Declan didn't bring it up. It was the fan. The fan, I forgot the guy's name, and I apologize. But just in case by some miracle he's listening to this podcast as well, he said it should be Brian Flores. All the other hosts, though, like all the hosts picked Kevin O'Connell. As good as Brian Flores is, you got to go with Kevin O'Connell, blah, 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 blah. I'm not completely sure. Not completely. There was a nice vibe with Kirk Cousins and such, and it was good and all that. But then you kind of, and then it was amazing. Like, wow, look what he's able to do with Josh Dobbs and all that, adjusting on the fly to this different quarterback who's got a completely different style of play. And then now you're trying to force him to play the Kirk Cousins game, him being Josh Dobbs. And what happens? He sucked. He absolutely sucked. That would be like me trying to do a TikTok dance. I'm not doing that bleep, okay? Okay, since this has an expletive on it, I'm not doing that shit. I'm never going to do a TikTok dance. I'll never do it. You can't force me. You can fire me first. I'm not doing it. I will not. But that would be like doing that, though. Like, that's not my strength. I'm not dancing for anybody, and you can't pay me enough to do it. That's kind of almost what this was like in a way. Or, I don't know, something like that. Like maybe I'm an athlete who's got quick feet, which I kind of did back in the day. Sometimes I occasionally do still have quick feet, but I'm not a dancer. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to do no karaoke either, especially some bullcrap modern song. Again, you couldn't pay me enough to do that. Maybe something from Hall & Oates or something. Maybe something from the 80s or, something from the 80s. I might go with that. But a game like this, it's just, I don't know. This was slightly better than watching somebody on TikTok or Instagram dance in front of the camera. No matter how cute she is, whoever she is, no matter how cute she is, it's still garbage. The music still sucks. And it's just somebody who's in love with themselves. So it's not entertaining. I'm sorry. When somebody's in love with themselves, they're not entertaining to watch. And a game like this, it's like you hate yourself. It's the other extreme. You absolutely hate yourself watching this. The team hates themselves by turning the ball over 4 times. The Bears hate themselves by poor execution as well. I mean, they only managed 12 points in the game. You realize how awful the Bears are? They only managed 12 points in the game. And how good the Vikings defense was. At least they like they love themselves a little bit. I don't even like to use that term at all. It's kind of creepy. But in love with themselves is another thing. That would be TikTok and Instagram people. Yeah, in love. Madly in love with themselves. Me. I don't know. That's about how I feel about a game like this. Freaking awful. I mean, the ball's bouncing in the air. It's going end over end. Like, what kind of pass is that? Like, that looked like me out there in middle school, just hurling the ball around playing flag football. Like, was that a pass, or are you just bleeping around here? How is that a pass? Oh, boy. It's sad. It was really hard to watch. It was one of the most irritating, ugly, pathetic games you ever saw in your life. Not quite as bad as the Spurgeon win one. And ironically, the Vikings defense played awesome in that game as well. We'd recently acquired Dale Carter. As good as he was awesome, but he only stayed with us for just that, portion of a season and never came back. I forget where Dale Carter wound up after that, but man, he was good. That was Jake Reed's older brother. Guy was an awesome player, but didn't stay, unfortunately. That was that 2001 awful Vikings team where, mercifully, we finally got rid of Dennis Green. Now, we didn't replace him with a great coach or anything, but at least it was somebody who was somewhat more likable, who could smile once in a while instead of hate everybody outside of his, demographic or whatever. Just, I don't know. I'm tired of people like Dennis Green and their angry attitude. Just settle down, dude. But that was then, of course. I'm moving on. I don't know why I'm getting into that. Angry attitudes suck. They do. And right now I have an angry attitude watching this game. That's probably why I'm talking really weird. It's also a late day. So, I don't know. It's also a very late, it's a late night segment number 1 recording here. Brian Flores, see, this has nothing to do with Dennis Green's demographic necessarily. I'm like, look at Brian Flores. Would I hire Brian Flores today as a head coach as the Minnesota Vikings? Yes. Without question, I would hire Brian Flores as head coach of the Minnesota Vikings today. I honestly might have more confidence in him as our head coach. As long as he hires a really good offensive coordinator that knows what he's doing and adjusts to the quarterback and such, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. Now, am I impressed with Kevin O'Connell to at least be a good offensive coach, except for today? Well, not he's had some other bad games, but he also competent in realizing Donatel was a mistake and hiring a guy like Brian Flores. Yeah, see, when you're able to hire someone on the other side of the ball to be to be the coordinator on the other side of the ball that you're a specialist at, That's a sign of a good coach, I think. It's a sign of a good leader, even more so than a good coach. So it can be a spectacular combination if you get it right. Absolutely spectacular. And this could have been a magical season. It's just such a damn shame. It could have been if only Kirk's, Achilles didn't pop, but unfortunately it did. And that's just kind of the reality we're stuck with. And again, I mean, when it looked like Kevin O'Connell was adjusting to Josh Dobbs' style, it looked like we had something exciting, like risky but exciting. There's always the small chance, just maybe some miracle is going to happen of some kind. But I don't know. It seems like whenever we have a miracle, it's short-lived. It's like a week or two. It's never an actual run to the whole enchilada. It's just so sad. I just wish someday this team could finally completely get over the hump and finish things, end the drought. But I don't know. Eagles fans got rewarded for being complete jackasses to us specifically. Their star quarterback was out for the season, and they had a good backup named Nick Foles, and they ended up with the miracle of all time. And look at Viking fans, nothing. Still waiting. Haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1976, or dare we say January 77. So, there I go, kind of waxing nostalgic on things that are kind of sad and depressing. The Fran Tarkington Award winner for this episode is Danielle Hunter with a bullet. It's Danielle Hunter, even though there's some other decent ones. Pat Jones luckily didn't get a penalty that killed us. It was he ran into the kicker, but it still didn't, it was just, the end of the day, they ended up declining it because the Vikings ended up with poor field position anyway. It was like a great punt by the Bears punter. So, oh well, gosh darn. So at least the Vikings didn't give up a first down there. The Christian Ponder Memorial was our Christian Ponder quarterback and our Christian Ponder coach in today's game. They're going to share it. Number one, though, is, Danielle Hunter's getting the Fran by himself. So he earned it. He was spectacular. 9 tackles, 1.5 sacks, forced fumble, multiple quarterback hits. He was just bleeping great. Like, he really was. Danielle Hunter was absolutely great. So he's the best player on the Vikings, period. He's the best player on the Vikings. You could argue the other guy who might get it, like the coach, would be Brian Flores. Like I was saying, he was the MVP of the Vikings earlier in the year. And he was. Still is, if you know what I mean. But overall, those two guys, Hunter and Flores, are the best. And then you get O'Connell and Dobbs on the other side, completely the opposite. Just awful. Like, they cost us the game. Hunter and Flores would have won us the game. Dobbs and O'Connell cost us the game. Absolutely did. Poor game plan. Pathetic execution. Addison, I thought, that's the one where it's Kadri Ishmael style, where he should have caught that. It wasn't a great play, but it was still something that needs to be caught. Ball bounced up in the air and intercepted. It's just annoying to watch. It's flipping horrible. Blankety blank. I think you've heard enough F-bombs from either me or any type of recorded soundbite at this stage. So with that, we'll take a quick break, and then you get to hear the second segment, which was recorded last night before the game. And obviously to not the whole thing, of course, but the NFL and NFC North review was recorded Sunday night, because you figured get that part of the show out of the way, because that's not nothing's going to change there. So those games were already over. And yes, the Baltimore Ravens did win the football game. Ultimately, at the end of the day, no major surprise there. The Chargers suck. They dropped to 4-7. They're poorly coached, and they're not that good either, other than their quarterback and some receivers. Baltimore is the number 1 seed in the AFC. Philadelphia, what a shocker, is the number 1 seed in the NFC. Wouldn't be surprised if you have an East Coast Super Bowl with Philadelphia and Baltimore in the Super Bowl. Wouldn't be surprised at all, and I think it'd be kind of fun. It'd be like, go Ravens, but it wouldn't kill me to see the Eagles win either. It wouldn't, just because I kind of, you felt bad for them, hated the Chiefs so much, how close the Eagles were to beating them. That would have been great. But at the end of the day, there's that. So we're going to take a quick break. You're going to hear that second segment, and then the preview will be more current, obviously, like after the Bears game, of course. So that's what's important. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 2. Going to look around the league and ultimately preview the Vikings and Las Vegas Raiders game coming up after the bye. So that's the other conversation there. That one will, of course, be a road game in Las Vegas. So the Vikings visit Las Vegas for the first time with the Las Vegas Raiders there. Of course, Oakland's going to ultimately lose another team to Las Vegas very soon. The Oakland Athletics, remember that team? Many years ago, they were the Philadelphia A's, the Philadelphia Athletics, many years ago. So Philadelphia used to have 2 teams. Boston used to have 2 teams. You know, the Atlanta Braves? Yeah, the Boston Braves. So it's kind of weird and crazy. And like I always joke about all the Oakland Raiders, gosh, man, they left Oakland twice. Once for Los Angeles, now for another loss in Las Vegas. We'll see if they'll win a Super Bowl in every single city they've been in. They've won in Oakland, and they've won in Las Vegas, but unfortunately their second tenure in Oakland, they made it to the Super Bowl once and got crushed by the Tampa Bay Bucks. So the Las Vegas Athletics, or Las Vegas A's, are coming up eventually. It's not going to be like tomorrow or anything, but it's going to be eventually. And the Vikings will be visiting there, so that's why it'll be with the second group, because it's a West Coast game. It's only like 1:05 there, or actually more appropriately, it'd be 1:05 p.m. on the West Coast. So that's why the Minnesota Vikings will be in the second group. Unfortunately for some of us, I suppose, but I guess I'd be doing that show in one quick shot rather than kind of splitting things up and all that. So like early or like right after the game for segment 1 and so on and so forth as I do. It won't feel a whole lot different for you. Maybe like feel a little slightly different as to what's going on in the background. At the time, I'm recording part of this segment, so it's going to be a weird show because it's a Monday night game, and you know, like the lawn cleanups aren't completely done; they're almost done, that type of deal. So, at the time I'm recording this, it's Sunday evening, like the typical time I'd be re-recording segment number 2 with the Monday Night Football game, Chargers and Ravens flashing on the screen. I'm pretty sure the Ravens are ultimately going to win the game, but it's only 3-0 at the moment. And of course, so I will pause though. I will pause before the I will not record the actual preview part until after the Vikings and Bears game is completed, because it's a little bit better to do a preview when you know what took place. Like, what if somebody gets hurt, or what if the Vikings lose, or whatever, or we win by 50? Who knows? So it'll be a better conversation going into, and a better vibe going into the Raiders game. Hopefully nobody's gotten hurt, though. Unfortunately, you already know from hearing segment number 1. So that type of deal. Because all these games are over now, like except for the the Ravens and Chargers. The Chargers are actually winning right now, which is kind of funny. So we'll start off with the Thanksgiving specials. Well, I guess one of them will have to wait until the NFC North, I guess. But I guess it doesn't matter too much because, the Bears and all that. But, I guess I will do it. It's kind of a weird situation, isn't it? Yeah, the Bears. The Bears are playing us. Duh. So, yeah. Cowboys comfortably win over the Washington Commanders 45-10. I kind of had a feeling it was going to be something along those lines. Dak Prescott, 331 yards and a touchdown, or 4 touchdowns, pardon me. Sorry, I'm kind of feeling a little funky. It's kind of a weird show setup here. 44 attempts by Sam Howell. It's just kind of like whatever. They were getting killed the whole game, and it wasn't fun to watch at all. I don't like the Cowboys very much. I think you probably noticed that about 30 years ago. I never liked the Cowboys. No interceptions by Dak Prescott, except for the short time when Cunningham was quarterback and Bill Parcells was the coach, maybe like those 2 times. So little short times. I like, just because I like Parcells, I guess. CeeDee Lamb didn't quite get into the 100-yard range in this one. 53 yards and 4 catches. Tony Pollard got in the end zone on only 13 carries, 79 yards, 6.1 a carry. So not a whole lot of resistance from a Washington team that was priding itself on defense. So we're going to move on for that one pretty quickly. I hope, again, everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. We did here for the most part, of course. 49ers, Seahawks, another blowout. Seahawks definitely falling off the face of the earth, and the 49ers winning comfortably for the most part. Seahawks are dropped down to our level now, 6-5. Dropped down to our level before the Bears game anyway. 8-3 in San Francisco's case. They're starting to move back in the right direction after dropping 3 games in a row, starting with Cleveland and then Minnesota and Cincinnati. It's pretty crazy, and how much Cincinnati's fortune has changed since then. It's kind of sad, actually. 49ers win 31-13, the reciprocal game right there, you could say. Game of reciprocals. Brock Purdy, not quite the perfect quarterback rating he had the week before. No. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but still got the job done, generally speaking. Both quarterbacks had 1 interception in the game. No touchdowns for Geno Smith, because the 49ers defense is pretty damn phenomenal. Christian McCaffrey also was one of the big turkeys in a positive way. Minnesota Wild were the turkeys of the year, by the way, in Patrick Royce's column, his annual turkey of the year. Check out Brave the Wild. It's literally titled Turkeys of the Year. 19 carries for Christian McCaffrey, 6 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. It's all too easy. Debu Samuel also with 7 catches and 79 yards. And only 1 touchdown catch for Brandon Ayuk on only 2 catches. 49ers win comfortably over a Seattle team that's, well, I don't know. It's not the same anymore. 6 sacks by the 49ers, 2 of them by Nick Bosa, who was, I don't know, he was kind of weird and quiet during the turkey presentation at the end of the game when a lot of guys were having fun, like George Kittle and such. Nick Bosa kind of serious, like, I don't want to have too many carbs. I'm not going to be eating any spaghetti or whatever. Like the lady was joking about like spaghetti or something. He's like, I'm not having that. I don't want too many carbs. It's like, dude, take it easy. You just beat Seattle. I mean, come on. Kind of serious. I don't know. Maybe he's, I don't know. He's in a, that's just how he is, I guess. I don't know. 31-13 though. Comfortable win. 49ers over Seahawks. Happy Thanksgiving, Seattle, I suppose, as they were the hosts. The hosts didn't, well, some of the hosts. The Cowboy fans had a good time. Probably kind of boring, but I'll never forget the Vikings going into Dallas. We always talk about that on Thanksgiving Day in 98. A couple of memorable games that year, like in Lambeau Field, but the Cowboy game, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns by Randy Moss. He was literally unstoppable. He wanted to be drafted by the Cowboys, and the Cowboys passed on him. That's just pretty much all you need to know. That's what he was hoping for. Green Bay, Detroit, that was the other Thanksgiving game. I don't know, should I worry about the NFC North thing? I'll save it. I'll save it. Yeah. Ugh, here's some boring stuff right here. New England Patriots and New York Giants. Well, rematch of multiple Super Bowls. Oh, shut up. I hate you. I hate you. Go away. Now I'm pressing the button, and I can't find it. Sorry, that was really annoying. I keep forgetting to press the sound off. So, my apologies. New York Giants win a defensive battle, and it's just really crappy football. 10-7 over the New England Patriots, who have an even worse record than the Giants. The Giants have won a couple games in a row, but not exactly against spectacular opponents. 10-7. Well, at least the defense is good, and Tommy DeVito has definitely been a positive for the New York Giants. He was good. Quarterback rating 103.9, a touchdown, didn't turn the ball over, and he was sacked 6 times. So he was sacked 9 times last week and led the Giants to victory. 6 times this week and led the Giants to victory. So, Tommy DeVito, I respect you. I do. And I'm sure Giants fans are begging that he's a starting quarterback and that they take Daniel Jones' contract and burn it somewhere. What contract? What contract? I don't see any guarantee there. No, nothing like that. Bailey Zapp was not zapping anybody with an interception. Mac Jones also with 2 interceptions. New York Giants defense looked like Bill Parcells was the head coach and that Bill Belichick was the defensive coordinator when they were winning the Super Bowl. It was 2 of the best defensive coaches that probably ever lived, basically, on the same coaching staff. You know that Giants team, 86. 1991, basically. 1990, pardon me. That was the 1990 season. Kind of a cool football team, honestly, whether you like them or not. The Giants, the Bears, classic, and classic. And then the Patriots became a spectacular team with the best quarterback ever. Great defense most of the time when it wasn't bend but don't break because of just personnel and not so good defensive coordinator for a while. Ramondre Stevenson did run for 98 yards in the game and the only touchdown for the Patriots, but that's about all there is to say. The Tom Brady Award, basically, other than, again, the multiple sacks, I guess, by the Patriots. 1.5 for Anthony Jennings. Interesting. Not Anthony Hardaway or anything. Okay, sorry. We'll keep moving. Not exciting, but, well, good for the Giants to win again, I guess. Miami Dolphins, New York Jets. Occasionally is an epic matchup, I suppose. Epic for the Dolphins and good for them. Winning comfortably. And Tua's back at quarterback. Did not have a particularly good game, but neither did Tim Boyle of the New York Jets, the other New York team. Both quarterbacks had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in the game, but Tua was overall a little more efficient. Generally speaking, higher quarterback rating and all that cute stuff. Raheem Mostert, there you go, 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Actually, a really good game for him. 114 yards for Jalen Waddell. And then Mr. Peastein himself, Tyreek Hill, with 102 yards and 9 catches and a touchdown. Wahoo. 2 sacks for Christian Wilkins of the Miami Dolphins, who had 7 total sacks. 1.5 for Emmanuel Ogbah. Emmanuel Ogbah rolls right off your tongue. 2 sacks for the Jets. It's a good defense, but not good enough. And, of course, the Jets are just kind of landed. The Jets are grounded. And the Dolphins are swimming. You like that? Did you see what I did there? Was it good? Nah, that wasn't good, but it was okay. Oh, Cincinnati. Oh, the Cincinnati Kittens. The Cincinnati, not even the Cincinnati unborn kittens versus the rotting rusty steel. That's basically what it is. Steelers have gotten pretty damn lucky with some of these matchups. I mean, real lucky. They're 7-4. That team is 7-4. This team is gonna get. They're gonna be like the Giants last year. You know, sacrificial lambs in the first. Oh wait, no. We'll get off of that one real quick. Might be digging myself into a hole with that one. Jake Browning. Jake Browning's starting quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. Jake Browning shouldn't be the backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, but he's a starter now. He's a starter. He actually had a quarterback rating of 96.2, so a little bit of respect there. At least he completed some passes. But I don't know. I guess it helps when you have Jamar Chase on the sidelines. Well, or not on the sidelines, but open in the flat or wherever the heck he is. In the flat or the sidelines. 4 catches for 81 yards. That helps. He ultimately threw a touchdown, 11-yard play to Drew Sample, but it was not the best sample size of a football game. I know that was cute, wasn't it? Kenny Pickett continues to be okay, just adequate. Najee Harris, who was spectacular a couple of years ago, he's still good. 99 yards, 6.6 a carry, woof, and a touchdown. Really good game, actually, for him. Hard to take the Steelers too serious, but I suppose when you have TJ Watt with a couple of sacks, he's obviously the only Watt left right now. The wattage was high for the Steelers with a couple of sacks, and the Steelers are 7-4, again getting really lucky with some pretty easy matchups due to injury or whatever the heck else is going on. And the Steelers are 7-4. Sorry, as I try not to cough to death here with the thank God for the dump button, you can call it. Big giant equal sign, sideways equal sign is a good way to describe that. Jacksonville versus the improving Houston Texans, if I can get to that. Yeah, I wanted to get to that one. And it's gone. Where is it? Okay. Yeah, okay. We'll get to that one later. Yeah, let's get to a Southwest matchup first. Southeast matchup, excuse me. Falcons over the Saints. Falcons over the Saints. Couple of weeks here in a row where the Saints went from a team that looked kind of promising, that might get into the postseason, or might do something. I don't know. Well, they lost to Desmond Ridder, who obviously has had a hard time winning on the road, but had a pretty good home record, generally speaking, though he has lost 2 home games this year and was benched. Back in there again today, 24-15 Falcons over the Saints. These are actually old, bitter rivals in their classic division, NFC South. Desmond Ridder, couple of interceptions, and 1 single touchdown. Mediocre game at best, only 168 yards. Derek Carr, much bigger numbers, but also playing far from behind a bit. 304 yards passing. Alvin Kamara, 69 yards rushing. Chris Olave, whatever. Ole Potatoes, I don't know. 114 yards and 7 catches, but did not get a touchdown. Not a single Saint received a touchdown in the game. What a mess. The Saints pretty much kicked a bajillion field goals. 5 of them to be exact. Not bad. Tyrann Mathieu with multiple interceptions, though. So some respect there. Not a big fan of the guy, but damn, yeah, he's a good player. He's just a jackass. So there's a reason why he didn't go like as high in the draft as he could have. Talent-wise, he should be a really high pick. Attitude-wise, he's not that great. He's not real nice guy. 5 of 6. Blake Group missed one of them, but he did make a 52-yarder for a long. 5 field goals for the Saints, no touchdowns, and they end up losing the game. Young Hoo Koo didn't miss again, but only attempted a 39-yarder. The guy doesn't miss for anybody's business. Cordell Patterson with a couple of kick returns. That's cute and everything. We're just going to move on quickly here, if humanly possible. Saints didn't get a single sack in the game either. No touchdowns and no sacks. That sounds like a loss. And it was. It was a loss. It's a big fat L. And the Saints dropped to 5-6. The Falcons, moved up to 5-6. Lucky guys. We'll get to that Texans game eventually. We got 2 games ahead of it. This one will probably last about 13 seconds. Okay, maybe slightly longer. Tennessee Titans finally win another game. It took them like half the season, though they are 4-1 at home. Give them some credit. Every win has been at home. 4-7 on the season, so that would make them what? A putrid 0-6 on the road. They suck on the road. 17-10 over the worst team in football right now, who is 0-6 on the road. Carolina Panthers 1-10, trying to go 1-16. Be the first team to lose 16 games but not be winless. Panthers are trying very hard to do that, but we'll see if their attempt is successful. Will Levis, mediocre at best. Bryce Young, mediocre at best. No touchdowns, no interceptions for either quarterback. Nice young rookie quarterbacks, but I don't know, it wasn't a very good football game. DeAndre Hopkins, 49 yards and 3 catches. Jonathan Mingo was doing okay with 4 catches, 60 yards. Where is Adam Thielen? 1 catch for 2 yards. 1 catch for 2 yards. Derrick Henry, all right. How about this? 76 yards on 18 carries. Okay, 2 touchdowns. Good game. Good game, Mr. Titan. This is definitely not a clash of the Titans. It's more like a clash of the clash of the little people. I don't know. I don't want to be rude or get in trouble for saying that, but that's about what it was. The clash of the little people. Like little people versus tiny little cats. That's about it. Tiny little cats. Like unborn panthers versus unborn, whatever the Bengals are. Tiger type guys. The Colts are 6-5. That's another team that's kind of weird, and they have a winning record somehow, like the Steelers. They're the other one. It's weird. Like, who the heck are the Colts? Who dey? Okay, sorry. I hate that. Just who are they? Okay, that sounds better. Or who are they? I don't know. That sounds better. Maybe it's not as exciting or fun or hip or cool, but I don't know. I don't care about being hip and cool that much. It's okay. Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Bucks with 15 carries and 100 yards. Awesome performance. But the Bucks were the schmucks again, losing 27-20, dropping to 4-7. And the Colts somehow, some way, despite sucking at home this year, 2-4 at home, 6-5, winning record. Wow. Gardner Minshew, no touchdowns. Another pretty. I mean, he was way better with the Eagles than with Jacksonville, wasn't he? Especially with Jacksonville, way better. He has been awful with the Colts, yet they've been winning a game or 2 here and there. Baker Mayfield arguably outplayed him. In fact, he did. But the Bucks just didn't get the job done. That's just the bottom line. Jonathan Taylor, another guy who had a very solid game. A lot of good running in today's games, generally speaking. Jonathan Taylor, only 15 carries, 91 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Awesome. Both running backs averaged over 6 yards a carry, meaning Rachaad White and Jonathan Taylor anyway. Michael Pittman Jr., 107 yards on 10 catches, working together with Gardner Minshew. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin led the way for the Bucks, but nothing all too special in receiving. Couple of stacks for Samson Ebukam. So don't cut your hair, Samson. As long as he lets his hair keep growing, you know what's going to happen, right? Samson is going to own everybody. He's just going to dominate every offensive tackle and guard there is out there. We'll see if he does so. Let's keep moving. I don't know. What is there to say? Like, the Colts won, and they're 6-5, and I don't know. They're cute, and they're probably going to get killed in the first round, but unless they play the Vikings in the first round, you know how that works. It just doesn't work out too good usually. Yeah. Vikings could have the best team in the world and then find a way to I don't know, not finish the job. Well, oh wait, they already did that in 1969, but I suppose that's a long time ago. Trevor Lawrence throws for 364 yards, a touchdown and interception, 38 passes, averaged 9.6 yards a play, so that's really good, or at least a completion. Then you had C.J. Stroud, who's definitely been the better rookie of the two between him and Bryce Young. Would have been a better pick for the Panthers, but wasn't the case. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. C.J. Stroud, good game, but the Texans lose, and their loss drops them to 6-5. So that's how good the Texans had been with C.J. Stroud at the helm, who also ran for 47 yards. Houston kind of, sort of, was hanging in there the whole time, but Jacksonville was just slightly better, and ends up winning 24-21. 8-3, the Jacksonville Jaguars, 5-0 on the road. 5-0 on the road. They road warrior. Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Allen, again, the other Josh Allen, who was on the defensive side of the ball, 2.5 sacks. Impressive performance. He's been great for the Jags. Texans with no sacks. That did not help. I mean, just one, doggone it, but didn't help. Texans dropped to 6-5. Jacksonville 8-3. Impressive, sonny boy. I think we're finally going to get to. Yeah, that was the game. That was the one. The Broncos versus the Browns, the Orange Bowl. Even though they're brown and stuff, and the Broncos are horses, but they're just orange. I don't know. They're orange, even though they're brown. They're orange. I don't know. At least their helmets are. The Broncos win again. The Broncos, what were they, 1-4 to start the year? They're kind of like us a little bit. And, I don't know, it makes you feel slightly less angry after last week's game. Yet it also shows that, I don't know, the Vikings could have won. How many times, this year could the Vikings have won a game and felt a heck of a lot better and had a way better record? So frustrating. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, good, but not the hero in this time around. Good, decent anyway. P.J. Walker, nothing to write home about there. Russell Wilson, really nothing to write home about either. Only 22 attempts for 134 yards and a touchdown. It seems like whenever he plays against the Vikings, there's always a miracle play or 2 or 3. Some like 3rd and long, and it's like you can't believe what you're watching. Nick Benito. Sounds like a hockey player. Nick Benino, NHL. Okay, sorry. 1.5 sacks for him, for the Bronx. And they win 29-12 comfortably over the Cleveland Browns. 29-12 over the Browns. Again, but no main quarterback for the Browns. And the Broncos arguably have a guy who's like the most highly paid backup level quarterback in NFL history at this stage. Russell Wilson obviously was a star player once upon a time, but not anymore. Oh boy. Anyhow, sorry. We'll continue moving forward from that. Broncos, that was a frustrating game last week, let me tell you. Talk about frustrating. Buffalo Bills continue to be frustrated. But, we'll get to that later. Rams over Cardinals, there's not going to be a whole lot to say here. This was like, imagine both of these teams being good just a couple of years ago. Well, it's been about 4 or 5 years, but whatever. Arizona drops to 2-10. Rams win in a blowout, 37-14. Stafford is back. 4 touchdowns, but he's always got to have that little grape jelly landing on his t-shirt, even in a game that was really epic for him. Only 229 yards, a still epic performance. 4 touchdowns, but you always got to have that interception. That's Stafford. And Kyler Murray finds a way to not have an interception, but was mediocre at best, playing from behind, and I don't know. There's just nothing to brag about there. Kyren Williams rushing for the Los Angeles Rams. Holy crap. 59-yard long, did not get in the end zone. 143 yards and only 16 carries, an average of 8.9. Royce Freeman, an average of 5.9 on only 13 carries. Impressive, 77 yards there. Tutu Atwell, 76 yards receiving for Les Rams. 2 sacks for Kobe Turner. Remember that guy. I've talked about him off and on during the season. And surprise of the year, no sacks by the Arizona Cardinals. But then again, their defense had been strong. But in a game like that, there's nothing good about that game. I mean, the Rams just blew them right the heck out of there. So, Lottie freaking da. Chiefs and Raiders, that's going to be the very last one. So, I believe we're at our second last one here. That would be, nope, second last one before the Packers and Lions anyway. Eagles and Bills. This could have been the Super Bowl. You realize that, right? And Buffalo was very much in this game, played their butts off, and the frustration was really mounting. It's been mounting. Buffalo looked like they were on their way to being one of the best teams in the league. Last year, they were on their way to being one of the best teams in the league. The year before, one of the best teams in the league. But then things would just end up not working out either in the playoffs. And this year is the regular season. I mean, boy, they're going to be fighting just to be a wild card now. Another loss for the Bills. They dropped to 6-6 in an epic performance. But unlike hockey, you don't get a point. You don't get 1 out of 2 points. And, of course, in the playoffs, you don't get anything anyway. So losing in overtime doesn't help anybody. It's a nice moral win, I suppose, but I don't think Buffalo Bills are interested in moral wins. When they had Super Bowl aspirations the last 3-4 years now. The Eagles definitely have Super Bowl aspirations, and they should be the favorites. The Philadelphia Eagles should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl. It looks more and more and more like the 2017 Eagles all over again. It really does. Like a team they're just better. They're just better than everybody. They're better than the Chiefs. They're better than the Bengals. They're better than the Vikings. They're better than that. Yeah, that team too. Probably they're the only team that I think could beat the Eagles is the 49ers. I think the NFC wins the Super Bowl this year. 49ers or Eagles are probably going to win. To watch Baltimore win or something, but Baltimore is up 7-3 at the moment over that Chargers team that's obviously got one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but they don't have a whole lot else to brag about. Obviously some good receivers, but it's not a team that's well coached. I mean, Staley's been dumped on all the time. That's low-hanging fruit. I'm not going to join in that at the moment. But again, it's low-hanging fruit. Jalen Hurts ran for 2 touchdowns and threw 3. That is 5 touchdowns total. Wearing those 80s and 90s Randall Cunningham-like uniforms and helmets. Beautiful stuff. It's actually really cool. I wouldn't mind seeing them win a Super Bowl wearing that versus like what they wore when, Nick Foles was the Eagles quarterback. Or even Donovan McNabb. Devonta Smith with 106 yards and 7 catches. A touchdown. A.J. Brown, a touchdown. Olamide Zaccheaus, low numbers for those guys. But A.J. Brown, a lot of short yardage catches. He was targeted 9 times in the game, but probably some throwaways along the way. Stephon Diggs, who supposedly wants out again. God, what a clown. Where's he going to go? The Cowboys? How exciting would that be? I don't think that would be fun for a lot of us around here. Boy. 6 catches, 74 yards, a touchdown. Gabe Davis, 105 yards, a touchdown for Buffalo Bills, who lost in overtime, heartbreaking fashion in Philadelphia. They gave Philadelphia everything they had, but Philadelphia still finds a way to win in a game where Buffalo did show up to play, but the Eagles also showed up to play, and Jalen Hurts might be the best player in the league right now. Might be. Obviously, most people would say, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I know. He's too busy doing commercials. Like, for which one? Hy-Vee? No, I mean, he's too busy doing commercials, period. Like 5,000 different commercials with his tight end that is in even more commercials. And he's a propagandist now, too. He is. Disagree with me till the cows come home. Travis Kelce is a freaking propagandist. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep saying it. Detroit was so good this year that them losing in kind of embarrassing and frustrating fashion. Like, what a crappy no-show for the most part until late in the game. What a no-show. Until the second half, kind of, sort of, scoring a couple touchdowns with extra points. They kind of no-showed this one, man. They were 8-2 coming into the game. Like, their loss drops them to 8-3. Do you realize the Detroit Lions could have been 9-2 and probably should have been? But Green Bay showed up to play. Jordan Love looked a lot more like Aaron Rodgers, making smart plays out there and frustrating the Detroit Lions and putting them into penalties and into mistakes and such. Had a little bit of that Aaron Rodgers, like trickery going on. And, yeah, I don't know. Dan Campbell got outcoached in this game. He did, and it's kind of sad. He did. He got outcoached in this game, and it's kind of weird and crazy at the end of the day. Matt LaFleur versus Dan Campbell, and LaFleur won this one, absolutely. Yeah. And Jordan Love, again, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Quarterback rating 125.5. Easily his best game of the year. Kind of a coming-out party on Thanksgiving Day and on the road because Detroit is going to host these games. Detroit and Dallas are going to host Thanksgiving Day games. So, yeah, it's just impressive performance by Green Bay, especially Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur with kind of some trickery and such. Good for them. And I'm saying good for the Packers like it's a good thing. Yep, and Jared Goff, what the bleep? What the bleep? Jared Gaff, G-A, I don't know, whatever you spell it, G-A-P-H, G-A-F-F, I think it's G-A-F-F. He had a lot of gaffes, too many. 3 fumbles and all lost. That stinks. He didn't throw in any interceptions, so good for him, but 3 fumbles, ugh. So that kind of absolutely sucks. Green Bay's Rashawn Gary with 3 sacks, all 3 of them. Very impressive for Rashawn Gary. Very impressive performance by him of the Green Bay Packers, and of course Jordan Love. Him and Jordan Love definitely got the job done. Christian Watson with 5 catches, 94 yards, and a TD. Also a huge factor in Green Bay's surprising win on Thanksgiving Day. Spoiled the Thanksgiving party in Detroit, as you know, they look like they're just far and away going to win this division, and they probably still are. Probably. I don't have a whole lot of confidence the Vikings are going to catch the Lions unless we sweep them in the 2 games we're going to play them. Then, well, okay, things get real interesting then. But, because then we'd have we'd have the tiebreaker and everything. But we'd have to still keep winning games. We can't drop them. I don't think we're going to sweep Detroit, but I don't know. It was really weird watching Green Bay do what they did. They kind of, like, until later on when Detroit made it a little more interesting and Green Bay didn't do anything in the 4th quarter, they kind of schooled Detroit. And it sounds weird. Again, it feels like Aaron Rodgers is at quarterback again a little bit with some of that, you know, just outsmarting the other side. I know everybody, a lot of people, they loathe Aaron Rodgers because he's the smartest man in the room, all that kind of stuff, smartest person in the room. But I don't know. You got to admire it sometimes. Like, I loved watching him make the Cowboys look like idiots in a playoff game years ago. I loved it. Just like the hard count and watching the defensive linemen jump off sides and the Packers get first down and Aaron Rodgers kind of laughing to himself. Because it was funny. You know, it was. And the fans were booing and pissed off because it was in Dallas. And it's like, I have no sympathy for the Cowboys. Sorry, I don't know. That team, I hated that team the whole time they were winning Super Bowls. And really haven't changed a whole lot since. So there was a time I liked the Packers more than the Cowboys. I guess in that game I kind of did too. Don't tell anyone, please. Please don't tell anyone. It's probably because the Vikings didn't really have any, you know, it was a crappy season. It was a non-playoff year when Coach Glimmer of Nothing, when Coach Grimm was the coach, Grimmer. So with that said, I'm actually going to step away, take a short break. Let the Vikings and Bears game happen, and then we can preview the Raiders and also look at the history as well. All right, here it is, the preview. The Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders heading to Las Vegas for the first time. So kind of exciting, kind of not. Las Vegas is not real good. They're a mess. They fired their coach recently, Josh McDaniels. So I don't know what to say. The Raiders kind of are what they are. They lost to the Chiefs most recently, and we have the history popping up here shortly. If I ever get to the stupid actual Chiefs and Raiders, there it is, 31-17. The Raiders are 5-7. The Chiefs are 8-3, number 2 seed in the AFC. But we're not playing the Chiefs. Frank Reich was fired already, just one bleeping portion of the year, but they're 1-10, so that certainly doesn't help. But I don't know. I don't think it's his fault. I really don't. Not so much as O'Connell's tonight. I think he's more at fault than Frank Reich is with the frickin' Carolina Panthers, sorry. Minnesota Vikings and Las Vegas Raiders, also known as the Oakland Raiders, the Los Angeles Raiders, the Oakland Raiders again, and now the Las Vegas Raiders. And, of course, the Oakland is going to lose another team to Las Vegas. That's going to be the Oakland Athletics are moving to Las Vegas at some point. I did talk about that just a few, earlier in this segment. The Vikings did win the first ever game against these two teams, between these two teams anyway. Ironically, September 16th, 1973, when the Vikings went to the Super Bowl only to lose to the Dolphins. 10-6 all-time. The Raiders have lost this and oak that. Lead the Vikings 10-6 all-time. But the first game ever we won, and then we lost 5 in a row, including the second game, which was the Super Bowl. The last Super Bowl the Vikings were ever in. The Vikings got to the goal line and fumbled at the goal line on the first drive of the game, and the Raiders ended up winning comfortably 32-14. Depressing. January 9th, 1977, the Vikings did not do what they did in the past and beat that Super Bowl team the next year, or NFC Championship, whatever. Oh, we won. Nope, Oakland won comfortably 35-13 over the Vikings in Oakland the next year. So we played a couple years in a row there. The Raiders then also hosted the Vikings again, 27-20. We did host the original game, and then of course the Super Bowl, technically we were the home team, I guess, even though it was in Pasadena, so I don't know how we were the home team. I'm pretty sure that was in Pasadena, right? So when I looked that up there, yeah, Pasadena, that's what I thought. It's the Rose Bowl. So who's really the home team here? I mean, I know it's closer to Los Angeles, but I think the Raiders felt more at home than we did. Whatever. Vikings lost 27-20. Vikings then hosted the Raiders in the Met. It would be the last time we'd ever play in the Met, 36-10. Absolutely obliterated. As I try not to cough to death here, I'm like, my mouth is drying up. I should have my water here, but I do. Thank God. Apologies, that was a necessary pause in the action here. Awful 84 Vikings lost 23-20. The Los Angeles Raiders, who I believe were the defending Super Bowl champions at the time. That was their third and final Super Bowl, by the way, that they won. They did make it to the Super Bowl many years later, only to get their asses handed to them by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Unfortunately, I was totally rooting for the Oakland Raiders. Got to the Super Bowl and lost, unfortunately, to their former coach who had just left for Tampa. That would be a guy by the name of Johnny G. John Gruden, Mr. Chucky himself. And he had that Chucky face, and he took that red team to the Super Bowl, just like Chucky's red hair. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they were still in Los Angeles, 1987. Vikings win comfortably. Finally ended the losing streak after a decade there, starting with the Super Bowl. More than a decade, really. November 8th, 1987, the year of the Twins, as they won the World Series. Vikings would go to the NFC title game only to lose in heartbreaking fashion to the Redskins, 31-20. 1990, the Vikings would host LA and lose. The Raiders, of course, 28-24. I'm curious who the quarterback was in 1990. 87, was it Schrader? Might have been Schrader in both cases. I just like looking. Yep, Jay Schrader. He's a classic, isn't he? He's a good quarterback, honestly. But the Raiders were 11-4 that year in 1990. Whew. Wow, pretty good. I wonder how they did in the play. I don't remember. It's been so long. Schrader must have been the quarterback in 87 also, right? Mark Wilson. Rusty Hilger. Okay, never mind. Tommy Kramer played most of that one. Yep. Promising, but 93, 24-7. That was crappy. I remember that one. Second year watching the Raiders. And they'd already, let me 1 second. I want to look at, LA Coliseum. Tim Brown, the legend, man, I love that guy. Jim McMahon versus, Jeff Hostetler. That's right. I remember that game very well. Hostetler made us look pretty stupid. McMahon was horse bleep. Oof. Couple of interceptions, no touchdowns, 24-7. Yuck. Kind of like the Vikings offense today. Oaktown Raiders. Yep, that's what they were. The Vikings beat the Oakland Raiders, who had just moved to Oakland that year in 1996 in dramatic fashion as the Vikings were fighting to make the postseason that year. I believe Brad Johnson was quarterback by this point. Moon had injured his ankle. Yep, not bad. Not a good game at all. Jeff Hostetler was still the quarterback. Okay, interesting. Raiders then beat the Vikings in 99, 22-17. Season opener. Or was it the second game of the season? I think it was. This might have been the season opener. Nope, it was the second game. It was very disappointing because it was a terrible Raiders team at the time when the Vikings, we beat the mediocre, much weaker Falcons team than we thought in the season opener. and then came back and lost to the Raiders. I remember we won in Atlanta. That was a big deal. But clearly that Atlanta team wasn't as good as the year before, even though all the stars were still there. And upon losing the Super Bowl to the Broncos in embarrassing fashion, they got their butts handed to them, which none of us felt bad about that. We just wish we were there to win, but we probably wouldn't have beaten that Broncos team. Several years later in 2003, this was Rick Meyer, wasn't it? Oh, it was, wasn't it? Because I always remember Rick Meyer as the Raiders quarterback, yeah. He completed 9 passes, 13 attempts for 195 yards. I don't even know how that's possible on 9 completions. Culpepper threw for 396 yards, but he had 3 interceptions. He was a turnover machine. An extremely disappointing loss. And this is the Coliseum in Oakland, California. Sorry, a 3-7 crappy Raiders team beat the Vikings by 10 points. Oof. The '93 Vikings or the '03 Vikings were, they were kind of a weird up and down team, weren't they? 2007, the Vikings win over the Raiders. That was an interesting one. I forget. I always remember, or I always wonder, because they've changed quarterbacks so many times. I think Culpepper wasn't he? Yep, Culpepper was the Raiders quarterback this time. That's right. 344 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Tavares was mediocre at best. And Sidney Rice completed 2 passes, ironically. But the Vikings, I thought we won this one. Yes, we did. It was ugly as hell. Culpepper was definitely better than our quarterbacks, but Adrian was in the middle of his spectacular rookie season, but he didn't play in this one. Chester Taylor was freaking awesome. Yep, I remember this one. 164 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wow. Chester Taylor was freaking awesome. That's all you got to say about that. Whew-wee. Wow. That was like the game of his life. I remember that now. Yep, that was great. Yep, he had to play because Adrian missed a couple of weeks with I think he had an MCL. Vikings then would lose to Oakland in 2011. Horrible, disappointing season. We'll just keep moving here. 2015, oh, that was a fun one. That was a fun game where the Vikings suddenly were a first-place team out of nowhere. All of a sudden, we were 7-2. Like, things were looking up and up, but all of a sudden, this was the one that felt like this team's for real. Like, we're going to win the division, and we might even get we might get a first-round bye. We might actually make a serious playoff run. That was fun. Adrian Peterson, 203 yards. Oh, so cool. Bridgewater, competent, didn't throw a turnover. Derek Carr, wow, he was already the quarterback of the Raiders. I suppose, yeah, he's a veteran now. Yeah, same guy with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's kind of funny. Wow, kind of a weird game, actually, very weird game. But the Vikings win with a great running game and then some timely defensive plays that made a huge difference. I know there was was there a pick 6 in the game? I think there was. Where is he? It was like the wily veteran who was the former Cowboy. Where is he? It was a huge play. Terrence Newman, that's right. But it wasn't a pick 6, but it was a huge it was a couple of interceptions that helped kind of seal the deal. That's right. Huge. Helped kind of seal the deal, and the Vikings would emerge victorious. I remember how fun that was. That was a breakthrough type of a game. And then the last time we ever played, the Vikings won comfortably 34-14. So a 2-game win streak over the Raiders in 3 out of our last 4. But the first one was 15 years ago. Man, that's weird how long ago we're talking with Culpepper at quarterback. Just 4 games ago with the Raiders. That's how often we play these guys. Man, I feel ancient. 16 years ago. Excuse me, 16 years ago, almost to the week here. Wow. September 22nd, 2019, a very improved Vikings team from the year before. Can't imagine who the Vikings quarterback was in 2019. Oh, Kirk Cousins. Sorry. Just kidding. He wasn't even a huge factor in the game. Carr, of course, with an interception because he's convenient about that. Vikings defense was good. Vikings offense was good. Madison was already here. Wow. Yeah, he's a veteran, isn't he? Cook with 110 yards. Madison with 58. Good. Impressive overall performance by the Vikings. Irv Smith had one of his best games as a Viking as well at 60 yards. Vikings moved up to 2-1 at the time, 34-14. Very impressive performance by the Vikings the most recently. Sorry if I babble so much about history, but I like it. And whenever we play an AFC team, I tend to wax nostalgic because You know, we don't play these guys very often, and there's some memorable games, including a Super Bowl in this case. But obviously, I never got to see that game live. But I don't know. It is what it is. The current Raiders team, I guess we're going as Aiden O'Connell, most likely. He actually was kind of respectable. Quarterback rating of 101.6. Against this Vikings defense, I got to hope you're going to force him into an interception, a turnover or two. Josh Jacobs is a big threat. Obviously, a very good running back. 110 yards and a touchdown, just like Delvin Cook last time we played each other. Interesting. Amir Abdullah. Wasn't he on the Vikings just yesterday? No, it's just weird, isn't it? Jacoby Myers, 79 yards. Devontae Adams, that's right. But this is, of course, after the bye. I hope the Vikings will be ready to play. The Raiders will also be on a bye. And believe it or not, they're in the hunt in the AFC, which is crazy and weird, but they are in the hunt in the AFC. So they're still alive, despite getting crushed by the Chiefs, the division rival there. Hated division rival. But I want to believe this Vikings team can kind of rebound from this. They've had a couple of insanely disappointing losses. I mean, it's sad. The Vikings had such a nice winning streak going, and now we've dropped 2 games in a row that were probably games that should have been won. The Broncos looked way better yesterday than they have all year, honestly. Way better than against us, honestly. Vikings should have won that game. We should have won that game. Madison, we were, if Madison hangs on to that ball, and the Vikings end up scoring on that drive, we probably win. That's 7-5 right there. That would be if we lost today. We win 8-4. Just think about that. 8-4. We take care of business, and then you beat the Raiders. You might be 9-4. That's like a whole different planet. Instead, we're sitting at 6-6 and 7th seed. At least we're still alive. Well, maybe we'll pull off some miracle upset and get killed in the division round. How exciting. It's fun. Sounds like something the Minnesota Wild would do if they ever advanced out of the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Just get smoked in the second round instead of the first. It's exciting, but at least you won a playoff game, I guess. Like the 19 Vikings, at least they won a playoff game. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about this Raiders team other than, they don't even have their main quarterback. Their coach got fired already because he sucks. I don't know. They definitely have weapons on offense. Not named Aiden O'Connell, but of course, yeah, because what's his name is injured again for the 90 millionth time. Almost forgot the guy's name by now. It's just like whatever, you move on because the guy's hurt every 10 seconds. The former 49ers quarterback. Raiders definitely, they only got 1 sack on Mahomes, but Mahomes is obviously still a mobile guy when he doesn't have an injured toe, and at least his offensive line is somewhat healthy. So that's kind of the hope going there. It is a road game. The Raiders have been a threat at times, but I don't know. They're generally a better team at home, I'd have to say. They beat the Packers, they beat the Patriots, yeah, big deal. They beat the Giants, that's a real accomplishment. They beat the Jets 16-12. Lost to the Chiefs at home. Yeah, so most of the teams they beat at home were not all that great. Yeah, the Packers, but they're better now. But at the time, the Packers were awful, 17-13, like big deal. Jimmy Garoppolo, by the way, is that quarterback. It's like my memory's just finally jogged here. I didn't even have to look him up. I just got it back. I don't know. They're not anything special at home or on the road. The Raiders. There's really no reason why the Vikings shouldn't be able to take care of business against this team. Just show up and play. Come up with a better damn plan than we did today, and you might actually do something. Aiden O'Connell has 6 interceptions on the year. Even Garoppolo was sucking hard, too. 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Aiden O'Connell, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Brian Hoyer, who's still alive, 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. Jacobs with 771 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. He's definitely a threat overall, but he is only averaging 3.5 a carry. But, I don't know, when you don't have much of a passing game, now you have talented receivers, but your quarterbacks have been sucking. Jacoby Myers with 591 yards and 6 TDs. Devontae Adams, the former Packer, of course, 814 yards on 4 touchdowns with 69 catches total. It's a talented offense for the most part. You do have Max Crosby, though, with 11.5 sacks. He's way at the top, so there is that threat as well. Whew. Luckily, we have a good offensive line, but Put it this way, if Dobbs is in there and they're still doing the pocket passer game, we lost. Max Crosby's going to get to him. He's going to fluster him, and it's going to be game over, pretty much. Crosby's the only real threat in terms of pass rush from the Oakland Raiders, or excuse me, Las Vegas Raiders. The next best guy is linebacker Robert Spillane with only 2.5 sacks, but he does have 105 total tackles and 3 interceptions. So he's having an awesome year, generally speaking, with multiple interceptions, all those tackles, 2.5 sacks. Yeah, but otherwise Max Crosby does present a huge threat in terms of pass rush. So I want to believe the Vikings can win this game. If the Vikings defense could hopefully force some turnovers, and we could actually win the turnover battle, the Vikings win the game. Put it this way, whoever wins the turnover battle between the Vikings and the Raiders wins the game. I know that's not necessarily a hot take or anything, but I think in this game it really, it's going to be a bigger key than ever, because both teams are limited at the quarterback position right now for this reason or that reason. Both teams have a great running game. Yeah, no, they don't. The Raiders have a better running game, unless we use Chandler more, which the Vikings didn't today. But Madison was pretty respectable, generally speaking. I got to think O'Connell's going to make some kind of adjustment here, or you're going to see a completely different quarterback like a Nick Mullins or even Jaron Hall at quarterback against the Raiders. You might have to. But I'd like to believe in our offensive line can get the job done protecting Dobbs if he's the quarterback. But get him moving again, damn it. O'Connell's flashing on the screen right now, obviously with the sound off. 24 turnovers is the most in the NFL. Again, whoever wins the turnover battle here wins the game. The Vikings turn the ball over 4 times again. There's no way we win. We just don't. The Raiders will find a way to win and run the clock with their decent running game. And, of course, the pass rush, that can be a huge threat. 3 interceptions for Spillane. He leads the team in interceptions and tackles, so impressive. And he's number 2 in sacks with only 2.5. With that said, I'm going to step out in faith here. I'm almost ready to pick a loss because I don't trust this frickin' team at all with the frickin' turnovers. But I'm going to pick the Vikings to beat the Raiders. That must be nuts. But we're going to go with the final score of, I guess we're back to Zimmerland, 17-13. The Vikings will beat the Raiders by 4, 17-13 over the Raiders. Nope, overtime game. It goes to OT and the Vikings win 20-17. Overtime. I just changed my pick. 20-17. The crystal ball changed here. 20-17. Vikings win in OT in dramatic fashion. Both teams end up exchanging the ball in OT, and then Greg Joseph wins it from about 30 yards out. Kind of like the Bears today in a way. So it'll be something along those lines. Vikings win 20-17 in overtime over the Las Vegas Raiders. Fan interaction is next. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 3, fan interaction segment. Well, luckily we have some comments. Obviously it's not as big as it used to be thanks to Facebook, doing what it did. So unless that's going to miraculously come back. But those of you that continue to interact with the show, God bless you and thank you very much. Also, it probably didn't help that it was another night game, another back-to-back, it's a back-to-back night game, Sunday night and then Monday night. Might as well be Thursday night the next game. No, the next game will be a 3 o'clock group with the Las Vegas Raiders. We already talked about that. Let's get to X post, X this, X Twitter, whatever the hell it is. Thank you for the reposts. Is it retweets or repost? I guess repost is what it's called now. RP. Vince Germano out of Australia, Tanae Brown out of New Zealand, and Malcolm McSween coming in out of Cali, the southern part of Cali. Thank you guys so much for retweeting the most recent episode. I can't thank you enough, and I do mean that sincerely. Couple of takes from Dave Hickey, and then a final little thing from Tommy Kramer, who didn't interact with me. It's just a good tweet that was highlighted, apparently. Thanks to algorithms and all that cute stuff, which this show could use a couple of. Dave Hickey out of Iowa says, this is the first time I've ever been rooting for Green Bay. Yep, I did too. but but can they finish them off in the second half? And apparently they couldn't. Dave Hickey says the turnovers and poor play has lost about 8 games this year. Yes, it has. That'd be for the Vikings in general. Yeah, it feels like, yeah. That's kind of the theme of the Vikings this year is the turnovers. Like, extremely poor pass protection. Piss poor or, whatever you call it. Just ball protection, generally speaking. They can't keep possession. That's the problem with the Vikings this year. It's cost them dearly. Not sure what to make of it. Obviously, that's not necessarily getting a coach fired or anything. It's just because I'm seeing the Wild in the background. Dean Evison's final game as coach of the Minnesota Wild against Detroit. Again, it was like a lifeless kind of a performance. It just happens to be on, and I like to have stuff in the background sometimes, or all the time anyway. It's just with my setup that I changed about a year ago, thanks to my cute little table here. Cute little table. I was able to move my position, even though I like looking outside as well. Now I'm just getting weird. I'm sorry. Instagram, and now the phone went black. Yep, because Instagram doesn't really work well on computers. It's pretty much a mobile type of an app anyway. So continuing from the last episode with the sound on, thank you very much. Boy, I'm really prepared here, aren't I? Sure am. Okay, so the last episode, blah, 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 Purple Mafia, 414, move on from Madison. Staying in Iowa, this would be Mark Carlson, strikeforce.92. Again, this is the Instagram, which is Purple Mafia Show. So it's the same. There's no underscores or anything cute like that. So that keeps things simple. Mark Carlson says, I agree with that, being Madison. Joey, you have been critical of his play for some time now, and I watched enough to agree. 1st and 10, and surprise, it's a hand up to Madison. Hashtag get creative. Agree. Yep. At least he had a better game versus the Bears, but again, that's not saying much, and the Vikings should have done more. I don't know. You might as well have just ran the ball more. That's the whole funny part. That's the funny part about the whole thing. Like, we went the complete opposite direction. Let's try to pass on the Bears and then get, 4 interceptions and balls bouncing all over the place. It looked like high school football. It looked like middle school football. It looked like gym class. And the smart guy, the valedictorian, who's into rocket science, is throwing the ball all over the place, bouncing everywhere. He's a talented athlete, but he's more of a good student than a quarterback. So his ball is bouncing all over the place and end over end. And what the hell is that? The ball's supposed to go in a spiral like a bullet. What a bunch of bull shit. Okay, yeah. See, I've already put the explicit label, but maybe you don't want to hear me curse every second here. Comments of in-game comment variety. Mark Carlson says, I can't actually blame them. Let's see, I want to put this in more chronological order. Yes, Mark Carlson opened up, and I was very late. I didn't post the damn thing until like the second half, so my deep apologies to all of you like Mike Dale that might have wanted to post. I'm really sorry. I feel stupid, and I would love to hear from Mike Dale coming in out of New York. Man, I love hearing from Mike Dale, absolutely. So major shout out to Mike Dale and Mad Martin, both missing this week. Mad Martin, I think, back-to-back weeks, so a huge shame. But, of course, coming in out of the UK area, northern Scotland, I don't think night games are really his foray, and he's not real impressed with the Vikings lately, so I can imagine that's the killer combination there. The Vikings playing like dog dookie for the most part, even though they were on a winning streak and it was fun to watch. I don't blame him for not staying up all night watching a football game. I just don't. Put it this way, I'd have a hell of a time podcasting. I'd have to come back. The show would be released like a day or two late because of that. I'd have to come back and do it when convenient. I'm not staying up all night. Back to Mark Carlson. I am babbling too much today. Mark Carlson says, this is the ugliest game I have ever seen. And I was like, yeah, it's horse bleep. He responds with, I sense implosion now after another interception. And it kind of was like that. Luckily, see, the Vikings stayed in the game because the Bears were just as bad as us pretty much. Like the Vikings played like a 3-8 team. A 3-8 team, now 4-8 team. That's what we played like. We did. We looked like a 4-8 team. We might as well have been the other Bears. We might as well have been the Northern Bears. Basically, I mean, that's what we looked like. Josh Dobbs looks like a placeholder at this point. Thought he was better than that, but at the same time, he wasn't utilized properly. Like, he's got strengths, and the coach didn't utilize his strengths. He tried to force something, and it didn't work. Final comment on this section is, I can't actually blame the Vikings defense for letting the Bears get a field goal late in the game. Yeah, they have been on the field all night. Production from offense is the key down. Amen. Can't disagree at all. It just sucks that it happened that way. It really does. It figures and all that. But 12 bleeping points, again, even if it's the terrible Bears, 12 points is basically nothing. It's basically nothing. And the offense sucked so bad. It's like, what else can you say? It was the kind of like, it's like a fire the offensive coordinator type of offense. That's what it was. But unfortunately, that might be the head coach if you're going to fire somebody because of the decision making and the game plan. I'm not sure what Wes Phillips' role truly is. He is the offensive coordinator. But is he, like how much say does he have in the game plan? It's got to be something. If you're an offensive coordinator, you're in a pretty high position and you are, quote unquote, in charge of the offensive side of the ball. But it looks like, I don't know, is it his job or is it? It's probably a combination and they both deserve blame for it, bottom line. So I think there's one left in the main, for the post-game thread. Yep. Oh, good. Okay, a couple of them. Tanae Brown says, simply pathetic. Yep. Tanae Brown says, pathetic. And Mark Carlson getting this in at the last second. Thank you, Mark. That was awesome, man. Awesome. Literally, like it says, 5 minutes ago. So as I was already clicking and starting recording segment number 3 and wrapping this show up here on Tuesday morning, he says, pathetic, says Tanae out of New Zealand. And I was said, that sums it up perfectly in one word. It really was. Mark Carlson, Strike Force 92, says, it is fitting tonight to blow this game. Why not lose to the worst team in the league? No wonder. Well, they're not the worst team in the league, though. It's like Carolina, isn't it? But they might as well be the worst team in the league. Worst team in the division? Yeah, they might as well be. Like it's kind of a group of worst teams in the league. No wonder we need Prozac and counseling. We Viking fans, I mean. Anyone can have a bad game, but this game was ridiculous. On the positive side, I really like the deep throws. Addison looks to be as advertised. Sure. Joey, I got to think you will have a lot to say about this game. I'm looking forward to the next episode. And speaking of that, all the Thanksgiving talk at the end of the last episode made me hungry. I like turkey. I love Thanksgiving and football. They go together. God bless Mark from Iowa. And God bless you as well, Mark from Iowa. Gold star for this episode. Gold star, absolutely. Silver star for Tanae. Silver star for Dave Hickey and bronze star for Tanae. Only 3 guys, but it's like, yeah, you guys are great. And you deserve stars pretty much every episode anyway because you're so good and so loyal to the show. And even a one-word thing can get you a star because it fits. Like tonight can still get you a bronze star because that's how pathetic the game was. Yes, Addison does look to be advertised, so I actually made a right pick for once. Marco Rossi of the Minnesota Wild was my pick a few years ago, and it worked out eventually. It took like 5 years, but yeah, he looks good now. 2020 draft in October when that was that weird year when drafts were in the fall instead of in the late spring, early summer. Early summer, basically. Hockey and basketball, that is. Football's in April, May-ish. Yeah, Thanksgiving, though, yes. I love turkey as well. It's my favorite holiday for so many reasons. And also just the start of the Christmas season, it kind of gets that going. So it's a fun time of the year. The only bad part is it's just, it's like now it's going to be cold for a while. But, oh well. The good part about winter starting soon is that what's on deck? Spring. That's the real most wonderful time of the year overall. Spring. There's nothing like April and May. It's the greatest. It's the absolute greatest. And June's good except for, it gets kind of crazy, and it gets humid too, but in the later stages, but the early June is so nice. It's Christmas season. Again, I hope every one of you had a happy Thanksgiving. I missed some of you that haven't been available the past week or two because of the weird scheduling and maybe me being late on posting. That's part of my fault as well. I'm a little bit shaky and jittery here in the morning trying to get the show done and all of that. So my apologies if I sound kind of goofy and weird. Kind of that, you're kind of tired and you drank coffee and you're shaky and jittery. I hope it's not too annoying to listen to. I'm trying to kind of chill a little bit here now. The tree's actually decorated now rather than just lights on it. I meant to decorate it a lot earlier. I just didn't do it, You just put the lights on and the star and then just, okay, I'll do the rest later. Hell with it. And then, okay, I finally did. So it looks a little better. Unfortunately, it's not a real tree because this is not, it's an apartment. We can't have real trees here. So it is what it is. It's not a house. Someday I'll have a real tree again. I'll buy some already cut tree rather than go cut one. I can't stomach the thought of cutting a tree down, honestly. unless it's for firewood. No, I'm just kidding. Or if the tree's dead, then, well, whatever. I just feel bad cutting down a beautiful Christmas tree. But if it's already been cut, it is what it is. You know, that kind of thing. I know I'm kind of weird and sentimental, but I love pine trees. I just really do. And, you know, that's so I get kind of sad when I see it, but it is what it is. Those trees were grown specifically for Christmas, so there's that. And I love a real tree, but I do appreciate this, you know, synthetic one. It does the job, and at least I don't have to throw it away. And now I really won't, because I have separate lights, or I have, you know, lights that are separate from the tree. They're not wired on the tree, so if they start to go bad, I don't have to toss it and buy a new one. You just toss the ring of lights, which is $5 versus $50, $60, $70, $80 of the tree, you know, so, or hundreds in some cases. So common sense there is ruling out. The way I put it on might not be as pretty as the pros, but oh well, so be it. That's how it works. It still looks like a Christmas tree. It doesn't look like pathetic and stupid. So with that said, I want to thank all of you again. Wish you a Merry Christmas season. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa for those that celebrate those. I'd rather actually say the holiday than Happy Holidays. You know, just say the holiday. There's only, you know, it is what it is. So with that said, I hope all of you have a wonderful week off. There will be no Purple Mafia next week. I've always debated, maybe I'll do one of those cute, like, it'll be like a segment 2 show. Just one segment. It'll be like segment 2 where I look around the league and all that. Sometimes it's fun to do that. I mean, it is a fun segment to do, but at the same time, you know, the only time I ever did a bye week, and I say this every year, it had like almost nobody. So, of course, that was several years ago. This one might actually do a little better, but I don't know. I'm going to sit out like I normally do and work on other podcasting projects, I suppose. So with that said, have a wonderful 2 weeks, I suppose, and we'll be back to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders game in Las Vegas. Ooh.